Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. I hope everybody is having a good week. I hope that you are starting to feel a little bit of fall in the air. We are coming into fall here, the false fall of Arkansas. We are having temperatures in like the 60s and 70s. It has been raining most of today and very cool. We have flash flooding going on. Lots of rain, which was much needed, much appreciated. And it's supposed to be pretty cool for a couple days and warm up a little, but then get cool again. Like, I think we're probably, maybe, hopefully out of the 90s. And I know that it gets a lot hotter in other places, but for us, like 90s with all the humidity, but it has been really nice. So anyway, coming into fall, tomorrow I'm planning on getting out my fall decorations and just getting this party started. So on that note, I do want to talk to you guys about my planned reads for the month of September. I have noticed there are a ton of different reading events and challenges going on BookTube for September. I am going to try to participate in all of the ones that I have found. I'm being very ambitious, I'm sure, but I have a little bit of crossover and I kind of have a plan, so we'll see how it goes. So like I said, there are quite a few things going on, but I am basing most of my reading around Shorty September, and then I will, insert whatever I need to insert here and there. But the good majority of it is centered around Shorty September. And I have never participated in Shorty September before. Basically, you read shorter works, so like 200 pages or less, somewhere around there. That's the cap that I'm giving myself, is 200 pages or less. And I will put all of the links for all of these different events and challenges down in the description box with the hosts, and so you guys can check those out if you want to join. Shorty September actually has 11 different prompts, and I have picked out a book for each one of them. I really want to get this TBR shelf whittled down. The last couple of months, I've really focused on trying to mood read as much as possible from my TBR shelves. I've got over 200 physical books on my TBR shelf, so I'd really like to make a big dent in those before the end of the year, when I will probably just fill it back up again. So I have picked out 11 books for Shorty September, and I don't think that's going to be that big of a deal because, they're short. So let's just go through those prompts and I'll share with you guys what I picked out. Of course, this is just a pile of possibilities, like maybe I won't actually do these, but this is my plan anyway for now. So the first prompt is to read something translated, and I have The Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka on my little summer school list that I had planned to move through and get through and be done with by the end of the summer. My summer didn't quite go as planned, and so I do still have a few things left on that summer school list to finish up, and this is one of them. My plan will remain the same. What I want to do with this is I have listened to this story on audiobook, and I have read at least a portion of it, like way back in high school. And I'm not sure, I know the high school version wouldn't have been this translation. I'm not sure about the one that I listened to. It was just a couple of years ago. And this translation, I think, came out, this translation came out in 2014. So it is possible that this is the translation that I listened to on audiobook, but I can't find it, so I have no idea what I did. But my plan is I wanted to compare, right, and contrast the different translations. But since I don't know which ones I listened to before or read before, I'm just going to write out kind of my thoughts. And before I start reading this, just what I remember, the main parts that really stuck out to me, the themes and things, and just kind of make a record of everything I remember and my impressions of the story. And then I'll read this translation and I'll see if this translation, matches up with what my impressions of the other ones were, or, did I get a different feel for this story, whatever, reading it in this translation. So that's what I'm going to do with Metamorphosis. It is a short, really short story, just barely over 100 pages, and it's very engrossing. Like, it will keep you reading. It's only going to be, an hour and a half or so. So I'll just pick one evening and devote it to reading Kafka. The second prompt is to read a book and then watch a film version of it. So I chose The Crucible by Arthur Miller. This is actually in the form of a play, and it's about the Salem witch trials, or just the Salem village during that time. I think I watched the movie, if this is the one with Winona Ryder from like the 90s, I think I may have watched portions of it at that time. I can't exactly remember, but I would have done it without permission because my parents were pretty strict about what I could watch on TV. But anyway, so I'm going to read through this play. That will also get a play under my belt for the year because I do have a goal of reading 1 or 2 plays a year, and I don't particularly love to read them, so I haven't made it a priority. So I'll read through The Crucible, and then I will watch that, probably that film version. I think it's Winona Ryder that I'm thinking of, and go from there. If I want to do some kind of a, response or whatever, I might do that. All right, the third prompt is to read a mystery, and the only mystery that I could find on my TBR that was less than 200 pages was this, The Daughter of Time. This is a book that was on my kids' reading list a few years ago for the homeschool lesson plan that I have them going through. And a few of my boys read it and they weren't super impressed, and my daughter DNF'd it right away. She wasn't impressed. She didn't like it. So I don't know. But I want to read it. Apparently it's supposed to be one of the best mysteries of all time, according to the New York Times. Also, there is a painting on the front of it, and if this painting features strongly in it, it may be able to be a crossover book for the reading event called Framed in September, which is all about reading about art and creating art and whatever. We'll get into that in a minute. The fourth prompt is to read something that's a comfort read, and that is the whole reason that I acquired this book. This is The Cottage Fairy Companion. So Paola Merrill, she is a YouTuber. She doesn't really do too much anymore since she started a family, but she has a really peaceful YouTube channel all about nature and creating things, and it's kind of prosy, poetic-y. And I put this book on my wish list for my Secret Sister game that I'm playing with some friends, and so my Secret Sister ordered this for me. And so it is all full of just little tiny essays and photographs of her doing crafty things, craft project ideas, recipes, collection ideas, just decorating ideas, working with flowers and herbs, that kind of thing. It's just a cozy little cottage companion. So I thought that I would enjoy going through that, and just this is a good time of year for that, right? Because we're home and inside and being cozy, and I'll look forward to that. All right, so the next prompt is to read something from the 70s or 80s. And not only do I not have an appropriate length book from the 70s or 80s, I don't have hardly anything from the 70s or 80s at all. I just don't read that modern of stories really, and it's not a time period that I'm super interested in really reading anything about at all. So I'm kind of cheating. So this is Florence Nightingale's book called Cassandra. It's her angry outcry against the forced idleness of Victorian women. It's probably not as militant as that sounds, but it is created by the feminist press, so do with that what you will. But so this book was published in 1979, so technically it is from the 70s or 80s. However, it was written a lot earlier than that. I think she published it in 1860 or something. So I am gonna have to cheat a little bit with that one just because I can't find anything that fits. If I'm gonna do all the prompts, that one's gonna have to be a cheater. All right, next prompt is to read a book that you've had for a while. Now, this is a Sand County Almanac by Aldo Leopold. This is also on my summer school little plan that I made. And it's a book about just, nature and observing nature and observing, outdoors, whatever. And I have read this book before. I read it for a class, and this is not at all my normal type of reading, but I just remember loving it so much. And that was almost 20 years ago. And so I just really loved reading it. It was just really relaxing to me. And it reminded me of something that my dad would have written because he was just a super outdoorsy sort of guy. But I have had this book for a really long time. I bought it, like I said, when I started that class. So that was 20 years ago. All right, number 7 was also kind of hard. Number 7 is read a book that pretends to be something else. So that was kind of a stretch and kind of hard, but I did pick up what it is with me and feminist literature. I think I just like to read it so I can like gripe about it. But this is Herland by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. All right, so this is actually quite interesting because I did just read Munster Village by Mary Hamilton. Was it last month? Did I read that in July? Brain is not functioning tonight. I read that in July, and it was all about a woman who makes a educational utopia, and the women that come and learn there, and just kind of, talk, shows a glimpse of what that would be like if that was a thing. Well, Charlotte Gillen kind of does the same thing here in Herland, but I think it's a little bit more like sensationalized. I think it's a little bit more, it says she employs humor in a story about 3 male explorers who stumble upon an all-female society isolated somewhere in South America. Noting the advanced state of the civilization they've encountered, the visitors set out to find some males, assuming that since the country is so civilized, there must be men. So why I chose it for this prompt, right? It's masking itself as this funny story, little haha, whatever. But it's really actually giving a social, political importance to her sort of message. It gives her the opportunity to have a voice about the things that are important to her in a time when women weren't always given those voices in those platforms and things. And so we find that in literature going back, the earliest I've read is, 1760s, 1770s of feminine literature all the way up through, the early 20th century. So that is a common thing for them to, speak on those issues through writing when they couldn't actually speak on them in person in public. But honestly, that's what we do with writing, right? We're always just sending a message. So it's just now we have a lot more freedom to actually share those messages publicly with our mouths, with our platforms, as well as through our writing. So that's great. And I laugh about the, feminist agenda, but in reality, a big part of why we are where we're at now is because they did what they did then. So yay. And that does have its good and bad points too. All right, so the next prompt is to read a book in a day. So I chose Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson. I have not ever read this story before. It's a short one, and I have avoided Robert Louis Stevenson just because I really don't like Treasure Island at all, and I've tried to read it so many times, and I just can't get into it. But this one is super short and probably along a different, theme and stuff. So we'll give Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde a try and see if I can't read it in one day. The next prompt is to read a book and then do a deep dive research. Now, I kind of do that most of the time when I read books after I'm done with them. I don't really do too much ahead of time just because I don't want to have anything spoiled, right? And I don't want to have an impression of the author before I've had a chance to make my own impression of the author. So after I finish a work, I will often do a deep dive and, search out information on other works, information from the book, information on the author, whatever I can find. That's just what I usually do. So I picked this book, Passing by Nella Larson, and this is what I chose for this prompt because this is a subject that I know nothing about. And so I figured if I was going to do a big deep dive, this would be a good one to do it, because I'll probably do the deepest dive on the stuff I don't know, right? But basically, Passing, from what I understand, it's a story about, I think it's fictional, and it's 2 women who are born black and are raised black and within a black community, but one of them is much lighter skinned than the other, and she chooses to pass as white as an adult. And so this story tells kind of the contrast between how their lives go as one is, seen as a white woman in many social circles while one is seen as a black woman. So I think that will be really interesting to read. I found out about this from Nicole at Noteworthy Fiction. I'm gonna really enjoy deep diving into that whole topic. And Black history and Black culture has always just really fascinated me, and I don't particularly know why. I didn't grow up around anybody. I grew up in Eastern Oregon. There's hardly any culture there other than, a bunch of cowboys, so which is great. But it it is nice when I have the opportunity to spend time with people from other backgrounds, other cultures, other, you know, ways they were raised differently and these sorts of things. So it's always just been a topic that I've enjoyed looking into and reading about, wondering about. So yeah, I'll enjoy that. All right, prompt number 10 is to read a retelling. Now this one is definitely going to be a crossover into Shaketember, as well as the challenges on Anne's channel. I'll talk about all that in a minute. But this is As You Like It by William Shakespeare. And I thought that I had grabbed, my plan was when I went to Barnes & Noble to pick out what play I was going to read this year for Shaketember, my plan was to grab Much Ado About Nothing. And so how I ended up with As You Like It, I have no idea, but here we are. And so it must be serendipity, and therefore I'm going to read it and like it. Okay, so As You Like It is a retelling. I wrote it all down. Let me look here. It was based on Thomas Lodge's prose romance story called Rosalind, which was published in 1590. And interestingly, that also is a retelling because Rosalind is based on a story written around 1350 called The Tale of Gamelin. And apparently that is a story that is similar to other stories from English literature and folk traditions, such as the story of Robin Hood. So that is a little history of As You Like It and why it is a retelling. You know, honestly, I probably should have made this my deep dive because that's a lot of stuff. I've already deep dove a little bit. But while this book is pretty thick, there is all kinds of extra information in here, right? It's a Folger's Library edition, and it's got all kinds of, you know, further reading and introductions and appendices. And then, of course, every page has help on the left and this, you know, the actual play on the right. So altogether, the play itself is really less than 200 pages, so it works. Okay, prompt number 11, last prompt, is read a graphic novel or something outside of your comfort zone. So I happen to, like, I'm not a graphic novel person at all, but I just happened to get this in the mail from one of my online friends. Sent this to me as a gift, and it's called A Book of Love, and it's a graphic novel. It's a, right? This is a graphic novel, right? Like a little comic book, right? Is that a graphic novel, but in book form? Okay. Anyway, so it's all about loving books, I guess. So these charming comics capture exactly what it feels like to be head over heels for hardcovers and paperbacks and ebooks and bookstores and libraries. A gift book of comics tailor-made for tea-sipping, spine-sniffing, book-hoarding bibliophiles. So that will be perfect for that last prompt. All right, so that is everything for Shorty September. I also have quite a good stack over here of more short books that I might pick up if I finish these or DNF these or just decide to put them away for a while. I basically pulled most every short book off of my TBR and just put it on my cart. I just want to fly through reading this month. I really do. Like, I've been stopping and savoring for 2 months now. I just want to read some stuff and just kind of like check out on most things and just read and learn and feed my brain and my imagination and learn some stuff and all the things. Before I move on, I do want to show you guys this. This is the printout for Shorty September. Every prompt has its own cute little graphic. So, I mean, you could color them in, or there's a box next to each one with stars. I just think this is so adorable. So, I'm really excited about that. All right, so what else is going on besides Shorty September? So, Chantel over at Chantel Reads All Day is doing a 3-month reading event, just like an autumn reading challenge, and she made a bingo board. And I am eventually going to focus better on the bingo board, but for now, while I'm focusing on these September reads I just talked about, I'm kind of just going to use like serendipity. Like, oh, if it fits, I'll check it off the bingo board, right? Because I do have 3 months on those. And so there's no reason for me to right now try to sort of force it, right? So I'm just going to let it be my serendipitous bingo board. And if I do something that's on it, yay. And if I don't, then later on, in a few weeks from now, I will look at it and pick out some stuff that actually goes with each little bingo square once I get some of these other things read and done. Like I said, I am going to participate in Shaketember, so I'm reading As You Like It. And then I'm also going to try Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. And I've never read anything by her before, and I really don't know, if I'm going to like it. I think I did start something by her and didn't really care for it and DNF'd it, so hopefully I like this. I actually did pick up 2 books today from a thrift shop based on Shakespeare, and I forgot to bring them in here, so it's fine. But I might read those too, and if I do, you'll find out what they are when I talk about them. And then that is kind of my plan for Shaketember. I'm just going to do those 2 books and call it good. Shakespeare is sort of starting to grow on me a little bit, but I'm still not like a massive fan. So another reading event that is going on this month is called Framed, and it is basically about art, reading about art, writing about art, creating art, and I really would like to participate in that, but I don't see yet, just from a quick glance anyway on my TBR, anything that fits. And so I am going to read that book that I showed you, The Daughter of Time, and see if that fits. And if not, I might make a better look through this shelf, or I might just go grab something and do Framed, because I really do love reading about art, especially art mysteries. Art history and art mysteries are so interesting to me, and so I really would like to pick something new up in that genre, but I don't know, there's only so many days, right? All right, and then for my children's classic reading challenge, I am reading 1 children's classic each month, and this month it's Pinocchio by Coller. And I have read this before. This isn't like a Disney version, like this is the legit story of Pinocchio, and it is such a fun story. I read this to my kids quite a while ago, maybe like 8 or 9 years ago, and I was looking in here and there's a bookmark. So my son, who just turned 22, made this for me. He just got married in April and turned 22 in June. And I just found this in here, and he had made it for me when he was a little kid. So that is so special. So I think I'm going to write his name in the front of this book, and it can be for him someday when he's, wanting it. So that's for that challenge. And then Anne over at In Search of Wonder has a couple of challenges each month. And one of them is the Classics Reading Challenge. And the prompt for that one is to read a Shakespeare comedy. So got that out of the way, right? And then the other thing she's doing is a 250th birthday celebration for Jane Austen. So every month there's a reading prompt for that. This month it is to read Persuasion. So I got Persuasion out, and I will put it on my cart. I don't have high hopes of reading it, but I have not read Persuasion for a really long time, probably like 12 years. I think I read it right after my first trip to England, and so I'm definitely due for a reread. This, and I just kind of always reread like my 3 favorites, Pride and Prejudice, Sense and Sensibility, and Northanger Abbey, and haven't really gone back and, revisited her other big 3 in quite a while. But it's just at this point, like right now today, it's not a priority for me as far as mood reading goes, but it might be. So we'll see. I might get into it. And then the other thing that I have that I'm going to start this month is this little devotional that I got. This is a gift from my secret sister as well. It's the Anne of Green Gables devotional. And I have not done a devotional in a really, really long time, as far as, using something that somebody else wrote and following along. So I think that I will enjoy that. I think it's going to be kind of peaceful for me, especially where I have decided to start back my ministry channel. I know. And so I'm going to be doing weekly Bible studies on there. But that's kind of focused on the people that, I'm ministering to, right? And going along with them. So this will be just kind of a quiet, private, probably just gentle, like I don't want to say simple, right? Because I feel like the Father will be profound some days and some days he'll just be simple, but just a gentle devotional, something that will just kind of be peaceful for this season. And I'm really looking forward to it. So I might even start that like tomorrow. I might not even wait until September and just start it because I really, really want to. So I think that's everything. I think that is everything I'm looking at for September so far. I feel like I will probably get about halfway through the month and ditch all of these plans and just go back to mood reading. Like that's what I'm expecting right now to actually happen. Because that is what happened this month. I was like on a plan, I was gonna do all this stuff, and then I was just like, nah, forget it. I'm just gonna read what I want. So I might do that, but that's totally fine. All right, guys, I hope you're having a beautiful day. I will see you soon. Bye-bye.